Good afternoon. Welcome to the News Roundup for Wednesday, August 27, 2025. And I'm your host, Bill Thomas. We have some urgent stories to share with you today. And here's what's happening right now on the Big Roundup. We begin with this. Breaking details emerge regarding this morning's deadly school shooting in Minneapolis. 2 children were killed, more than a dozen injured. President Trump extending his grip on our nation's capital by taking over the city's legendary Union Station and the Social Security information of 300 million Americans now at risk after a federal agency uploads all of their critical data to an unsecure cloud account. Also, the remarkable rise of an immigrant pizza magnate and a major rock star sued by his bandmates for skimping on the royalties from a smash hit song. We'll tell you the legendary tune that has them all taking a deep breath. All this and more coming up right now on the Big Roundup. We have so much to get to today, and we begin with this morning's heartbreaking and tragic shooting at a private K-8 school in Minneapolis, which left 2 students dead. The suspect as well, and injured at least 17 other people, including 14 young children. Authorities say that just before 8:30 this morning, a shooter dressed in black who was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol walked up to Annunciation Catholic School before opening fire through a side window, targeting a number of children who were attending a back-to-school mass at the time. Right now, a number of those victims, they are still being treated for their wounds at a nearby hospital, including at least 8 children ranging in ages from 6 to 15, as well as 2 adults, and both of the adults in their 80s. Thankfully, all of these children now expected to survive, and tragically, the 2 children who lost their lives were just 8 and 10 years old. Police now identifying the suspect as 23-year-old Robin Westman. They say he has no extensive criminal history and that right now they believe he acted entirely alone. They're also saying he was a graduate of the campus from 2017. Also reports now that his mom at one point worked at the campus as well. They also say that after firing all 3 weapons, the suspect eventually committed suicide by shooting himself behind the school church. A number of public officials now publicly sharing their grief over the shooting, including the city's chief of police, who calls the attack an incomprehensible act of cruelty and cowardice. Others speaking out include Governor Tim Walz and Pope Leo XIV, who sends his heartfelt condolences and blessings to the school, the entire community, and, of course, to the family of the victims. Annunciation Catholic School, they've been around for more than 100 years. They have about 400 students attending K-8 classes there, and police say that in conjunction with his rampage, the suspect released a video manifesto on social media, which has since been taken down. According to people who've seen the hate-filled video, it contains a significant amount of repugnant material and mentions other mass murderers, Israel, and even President Trump. According to sources, the suspect was previously known as Robert Westman before applying for a name change in 2022, saying on his application that he identified as a woman. Authorities also saying that all 3 weapons were legally purchased by the suspect and as a mark of respect for the victims. President Trump now ordering all flags at federal buildings to be flown at half-staff until Sunday. Final thought, this is the News Roundup Lowdown. Each day on this program, we share with you a variety of pressing stories. Many of those news items highlight Russia's ongoing war with Ukraine, Israel's war with Hamas, other conflicts as well, and the number of people injured or killed in those wars terribly overwhelming. Another war happening right here at home, and unlike conventional wars, there's no front line. That line keeps moving indiscriminately. There appears to be no way to prepare for it, and tragically, there doesn't appear to be a way to fight back. Now, many of our schools, they participate in active shooter drills, but these shootings, they often happen so rapidly, there's really nothing any of the victims can do to protect themselves. 2 innocent children sitting in pews in the school church, they're dead today. 17 others injured. The suspect has reportedly killed himself, and clues as to what led to this unimaginable crime will take a great deal of time to sort out. Now, in the hours, days, and weeks ahead, we'll be learning a great deal more about the suspect. The video manifesto left behind will be very carefully analyzed and scrutinized, and in time, authorities most likely will have a better understanding as to what led to today's murderous rampage. Almost feels as though the only authentic way to make our schools safe is to kind of fortify them like a prison with armed guards stationed all around the perimeter of each and every campus nationwide and maybe bulletproof windows. This is just so extraordinarily unbelievable. You know, everyone is affected by this, and producer David will bring you in right now. You're on the Washington, D.C. office. You and I have been following this very closely today. Personally, I just feel devastated. I feel just so horrible about this. What are you feeling right now?
Oh, I'm filled with rage, overwhelming sorrow, incredible compassion for all the families and people involved in that community. It's infuriating.
It is infuriating. And when you and I were youngsters in the K through 8 program, life just seemed much more simple. We all felt very safe, never thought anything could ever go wrong at any of our school campuses. And we've come a long way. So we're all affected by this very clearly. Share your thoughts and comments with us via email. We're at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. Even if you just want to vent a little bit, we'd love to hear from you. So, Davey, to the email bag. I know folks are feeling very emotional about this today.
Yeah, I don't think I think everybody's in agreement and in shock. It's overwhelming. Arletta in Chicago, Illinois, is writing to us today, and she says, "What can we say? The American people are appalled every time one of these incidents happens, which is far too often. Yet nothing ever seems to get done about it."
Yeah, it seems to get worse and worse. The American people are appalled, and I would imagine that all across the world, we're a global community. I would imagine a number of people in a variety of countries are equally appalled, thinking, what is happening in the United States of America? I think we kind of lead the world in these school shootings. What are we going to do? A lot of folks all day long, Davey, I know you've heard this as well, putting up on social media, love and light, thoughts and prayers and all the rest. There's nothing wrong with that. It sounds kind of repetitive. People keep saying the same thing over and over, but that's not really a solution. Do we have to put the National Guard on our school campuses? We've got them on the streets in D.C. We're talking about doing it in Chicago and Maryland. We're talking about all over the country. I think our school campuses need a great deal of attention, and I can't think of anything better right now than the National Guard. There aren't enough police officers to patrol every campus nationwide. Sad that it has to come to that, but it's just a thought that I'm throwing out there. Davey, who's up next?
Okay, Bill, here's one from Vivian, who's writing to us today from Charleston, South Carolina.
Hello, Vivian. Welcome to the program. Sorry we had to meet under these circumstances.
Yeah, Vivian says there's no reason a maniac like this should ever be allowed to get their hands on a gun, period. Yeah. It's time for some type of reasonable gun control, plain and simple.
There is no gun control. Gun control is a myth, and it's a fairy tale. There's, first off, a Second Amendment right. We are all allowed, we're all afforded that right to keep and bear arms, number one. If you tried to do gun control, only the bad guys have the guns, so that's wholly ineffective. Additionally, Dave, you know quite a bit about 3D printers, even more than I know, but I know enough to know that with a 3D printer, you can make your own weapon at home in your garage. Does that sound accurate?
That's pretty accurate, Bill. I mean, these days, if a bad guy wants to get their hands on a weapon, it's not too difficult for them to do it.
Yeah, not at all. I'm not a gun guy, never had an interest in owning a gun, but I have a lot of friends with guns, and they've made it very clear it's abundantly easy to get a gun, whether legally or on the street, whatever you got to do. Guns are there. Gun control, it's a fairy tale. Tragic story, one we're going to keep following in the coming days and weeks. As we learn more, we'll be here right with you and share as much as we can as soon as we find out. Change things up just a bit now. We do want to turn our attention to the latest move by President Trump now to clean up our nation's capital, keep it safe, and, of course, make America great again. The federal government now taking over control of Washington's Union Station train depot from its current manager, Amtrak, as the Trump administration ramps up their efforts to fix our country's broken capital city. There's a lot to fix. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the president is assuming control of the critical transportation hub because right now the station is completely falling apart, and he wants to make it both beautiful and safe once again. Duffy went on to say that the Trump administration plans to spruce up the aging facility in an economical way and that it's all part of the president's vision to make our nation's capital a source of pride for our entire country. He also says that the federal government can do a much better job managing the station, attracting tenants to the building, and generating revenue, which can be used to help repair the aging structure. Now, the Transportation Department says that right now, Union Station needs at least $170 million worth of upgrades, including a new roof and better public restrooms. In case you're not aware, Union Station, they've been around for nearly 120 years, located just a short walk away from the U.S. Capitol, and it's the main transportation hub for the entire city, often the first thing that visitors see when arriving in Washington. President Trump has already made a number of moves to put a lid on out-of-control crime and violence in D.C., and they include deploying thousands of National Guard troops to the city, upping the federal law enforcement presence, and taking control of the city's police department. A final thought, this is the News Roundup Lowdown. Now, look, Amtrak, no offense, but Union Station, it's a mess. Time to clean the place up. There's a new sheriff in town, and the big train depot is about to be brought into the 21st century and in grand style. You know, this station should be a point of pride for the entire country, but it is showing significant signs of wear and tear, and clearly too many travelers are citing safety concerns. Davey, you know Union Station. That's your neck of the woods. I know my train station here in downtown L.A. It's gorgeous. Right off of Alameda and the 101, the Hollywood Freeway in downtown. They've kept that place nearly pristine. It's gorgeous, relatively safe. I don't hear a lot of issues with our big train depot in downtown, and I hope your train depot is brought up to snuff. Is it a possibility?
I believe that in the past, the Union Station has had some issues. There was a leaky roof back in the 80s. I believe the Reagan administration fixed that up. So it's had some problems along the way. Even during the pandemic, a lot of tenants kind of vacated and there was a lot less foot traffic. But I got to tell you, I've been in both Union Stations, LA and DC. I've never had a problem in either one.
Well, very good. I haven't been to yours, but you've been to mine here, Union Station here. It's pristine, very crowded, but they get the job done. Now, Union Station, the Washington unknown, is about 120 years old. Just because it's getting on in years doesn't mean it can't be well kept and a safe transportation hub. Now, look, the Trump administration can and is, in fact, obligated to do all it can to make Union Station a world-class facility and one which everyone in Washington can and should be proud of. Hey, think about it. How would you feel if a significant historical landmark in your community was in shambles? You'd want someone to step up, jump in, and put a fix in place. And that's exactly what the Trump administration is doing right now. And what are you thinking about big changes brewing at the train station? Train your thoughts and comments on us, and we're at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. And once again, Davey, to the email bag, what are folks saying about this?
Okay, Bill, we've got Martin in Aspen, Colorado, checking in with us today.
Very good. Hello, Martin. What's on your mind?
Martin says, I salute the president for restoring our nation's glory one rail station at a time. I hope he puts federal troops in every station across America and sends those violent criminals back to where they belong.
Yeah, and I'd be curious as to what Martin thinks about putting those federal troops, National Guard, and anybody else patrolling our school campuses nationwide. The train stations are a good start, but I think they're secondary in terms of safety to our school campuses. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Trump administration says they're only taking management away from Amtrak. And National Guard, by the way, they are there. Troops are there. They've been patrolling the facility since earlier this month. If more are necessary, I'm sure he'll put them right into business. And Davey, who's next?
Okay, Bill, there's a little bit of a different point of view for you coming to us from Ted in New York City.
Hello, Ted. What are you thinking?
And Ted says, great. Now we have jackbooted thugs standing guard in Union Station as well. There's a fine line between security and oppression, and how is this freedom?
Well, it's not jackbooted thugs. I'll tell you how it's freedom. You have the freedom now to move about freely, to go into and out of Union Station, surface streets around Union Station, boarding the trains, being safe on the trains, because you've got the National Guard patrolling the facility. You've got the government cleaning up the facility. What do you want? More of the same or something better? I'll tell you, when it comes to Washington, D.C. in general, I think President Trump and the Trump administration, they want something in general a lot better for the city. And not just the city, but the train depot, city streets, neighborhoods as well. They're going to try the same thing in Chicago, and we welcome it here in L.A. We saw it coming to L.A. in June when we had the riots and the civil unrest. National Guard came in, cleaned things up pretty quick, made things relatively safe again. Put the National Guard to work? Absolutely. You have your choice, more of the same or something better. Switch things up just a bit now. Turn our focus to some alarming news concerning the personal data of hundreds of millions of Americans, and the federal agency now accused of uploading that information to an unprotected internet account. What were they thinking? A federal whistleblower claims that the Social Security data of more than 300 million Americans, folks like you and I, including medical histories, banking details, and family relations, they're all now highly vulnerable after the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, uploaded that sensitive information to a cloud account. It's not subject to any federal oversight. In a complaint filed with federal lawmakers, the whistleblower, who works at the Social Security Administration, now warns that if bad actors ever gain access to this unsupervised cloud account, an enormous number of Americans would instantly become susceptible to widespread identity theft. Goes on to say that as a result of the error, a whole bunch of people could eventually wind up losing their health care benefits and their food assistance, and that in a worst-case scenario. The federal government might even have to foot the bill for reissuing every American a brand new Social Security number. In the meantime, the Social Security Administration downplaying the threat. They say that they store all personal data in extremely secure environments, which are walled off from the internet, and that only high-level officials have access to that information. They also say that, as far as they know, so far, none of that personal data has ever been compromised. By the way, the whistleblower claims he told his superiors that he believes uploading all the personal data to the cloud amounts to an abuse of authority and potentially is against the law. Also claims it poses a significant threat to public safety and health. To refresh your memory, the Trump administration has given DOGE access to a massive amount of personal data so the agency could pursue their mandate to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse in our federal government. Final thought, and this is the News Roundup Lowdown. Look, another day, another epic breach, or at least a possible breach. These scams appear to be happening almost daily, and at this point, tragically, it feels like there's nothing we can do about it. Our ATM cards, they're getting breached, our credit cards, our bank accounts, our health records, and more. Kind of makes you long for the old analog days. Write it down and put it into a filing cabinet. Now, with regard to the wide variety of ways in which your personal information can be compromised, this one takes the cake. According to at least one whistleblower who was at one time on the inside of the SSA, says the manner in which our federal government stores our Social Security data in some goofy cloud, it's not secure, and at one point, much of it could end up in the wrong hands. Can't have that. You got to have the federal government in control of tons of your personal data, but it doesn't feel like it's being well guarded, and each and every one of us should be enormously concerned. Also, this notion of the Fed issuing new Social Security card numbers to every American, now that would be absolutely a nightmare. Turn into a record-keeping nightmare. And at the very least, the Social Security Administration, they need a checkup from the neck up. Get it together. Effectively manage and secure our data. Fund the administration finally. And look, get the job done. Hey, your comments, your thoughts, your questions, and more securely stored on the News Roundup Cloud. Producer Davey oversees that News Roundup Cloud. Have a chat with us via email. You'll find us at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. All emails are secure. Yes, Davey?
I hope so, Bill. Let's go to our very highly secure mailbag.
Very good. Enter the code before you open the email bag, please.
Okay, yeah, we've got to keep this under lock and key, Bill.
Yeah, who's up first?
Stanley from Madison, Wisconsin is writing to us today.
Stanley, state your business, sir.
Stanley says, a number of us tried to warn everyone about the danger of DOGE accessing our personal records, but we were completely ignored. Now the chickens have come home to roost, and we all have to pay the price.
Yeah, I don't know that I disagree with you. I'm all for DOGE and what they were doing, eliminating waste and fraud, redundancies, and saving the country a lot of money. But when they got their hands on Social Security, hands off Social Security, it's already an enormous mess. And to their credit, DOGE did find a lot of irregularities. They found a great deal of fraud and abuse in that system, but I don't want them finding it at the expense of all of my personal data or your personal data being compromised. So I kind of half agree with you. And Davey, who's up next?
Okay, Bill. Here's a different view from Lloyd, who's writing to us today from Oklahoma City.
Hello, Lloyd. Thank you for checking in. What are you thinking?
Lloyd says, I don't believe that crybaby whistleblower. Our info is much safer now than it ever was under the Biden administration. And if cyber criminals want it so bad, they're going to find it anyway, so relax.
Yeah, and I don't know a whole lot about that cloud, but I don't trust that cloud. I know on my home computer, they want you to put stuff up on the cloud. I prefer to back things up to, what's the little stick, the thumb drive? Is that what you call that, Davey?
The thumb drive, absolutely, Bill, yeah.
You
the
can
flash
get these,
drive, yeah.
the flash drive. You can buy the 1 and 2 terabyte hard drives that plug in via USB. I think those things are under $100. So I don't know the need for that cloud. And I don't want all of my personal data, finances, medical records, and anything else up on the cloud. And why does the Social Security Administration have our medical records? That struck me as really odd in that story. Why would they have that? Any idea?
Well, I'm guessing that possibly people who use Medicare,
good point.
have it collated with their Social Security numbers.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, it's all too risky right now. And I got to say, I don't trust the cloud. Don't know a lot about it, but Davey, what little I know, and you might know more than me, it doesn't sound like a bright idea. What do you say?
No, I agree with you 1,000%, Bill. If it's out there, somebody can find it, and you're better off having the good old Rolodex at home.
Yeah, that's what I've got. Keep it analog, absolutely. Hey, by the way, some additional headlines we are keeping a very close watch on. So, Russia's invading forces now capturing more ground after breaking into an 8th region of Ukraine. There is no peace deal in sight. President Trump imposing steep 50% tariffs on India as a penalty for India buying Russian oil, and a growing number of countries now eliminating the delivery of small packages to the U.S., citing uncertainty over our nation's tariff policies. Turn now to the world of business. And today we share with you an uplifting immigration success story, which shows that for many people, the American dream still very much within reach. It's alive and it's kicking. Absolutely. An immigrant from Pakistan who got his start in this country by delivering pizza for $4.25 an hour now runs his very own business empire. And it includes owning 270 of the Papa John's fast food restaurants. And that's where he says he got his start. A 58-year-old guy named, I hope I get this right, Davey, Nadim Bajwa, says he suffered from a language barrier, a great deal of anxiety and culture shock when he first arrived in the U.S. to go back to college in Indiana back in 1991. Again, this guy's from Pakistan. Says that while he was going to school, wound up working 3 jobs to make ends meet, and that ultimately he liked working for Papa John's best of all, simply because he made good tips. Bajwa goes on to say that by the time he graduated, he had already been promoted to area manager. And when he began looking for other corporate gigs, couldn't find a job that paid him more than he was already earning. So what are you going to do? He stuck around. A few years later, wound up scraping together all the money he could find and using it to open his very own first Papa John's franchise in Ohio, which became, according to him, an overnight success. Within a few months, he began opening a handful of other locations, and despite a few road bumps and some hard-earned lessons along the way, eventually Bajwa's rapidly growing pizza empire had expanded to include a diverse portfolio of companies which are involved in construction, technology, accounting, and even a call center. Bajwa's company recently signed a deal with Papa John's to develop 50 more restaurants in the next 3 years and says his goal is to eventually own 500 pizza joints. He's going to feed the planet. The entrepreneur says that one of the most important lessons he's learned along the way is the need to remain humble. He says that on the day you start thinking you have it all, that's when your downfall begins. Final thought, this is the News Roundup Lowdown. It's kind of like that old Tony Bennett song, Rags to Riches. Remember that one, Davey?
I do, Bill.
Yeah, but this one is a classic, but this version is better. On account of this version comes with pepperoni. This is a clear example of the great American dream, and you really can have everything you want if you're willing to put in the effort. Now, here's a guy who comes to the U.S. from Pakistan, has limited English skills, works 3 jobs, puts himself through college, and over a lengthy period of time, he becomes an overnight success. Kind of like that rock star, Peter Frampton, working and gigging 20 years on the road, playing the nightclubs. Overnight, Davey, he became an overnight success. Pretty amazing, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. Show him the way, Bill.
I assume you're a big Peter Frampton fan, as we all are from the 1970s. Hey, look, bottom line, from time to time, you're going to hear young people claiming that in life, getting ahead, it's impossible. And truth be told, they're absolutely correct. If you don't work harder than the other guy, if you don't afford yourself a quality education, if you're not creative, innovative, if you simply refuse to accomplish something, then yeah, getting ahead, it's almost impossible. Now, it would be impossible for you to not have any thoughts or comments on this one. So reach out to us via email, and you're going to catch us at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. Davey, let's talk pizza via email. What's on folks' minds?
Okay, Bill, we go to Charlene in Fort Worth, Texas.
Hello, Charlene. I assume you're a big pizza fan.
Charlene says, kudos to that remarkably hardworking American from Pakistan.
Yeah.
Just goes to show you what a little elbow grease can get you, and he's earned everything he's got.
He has. That's one of the most phenomenal success stories I've ever had. Coming to a foreign country, not having a decent command of the English language, putting yourself through college, working day and night, 3 different jobs, saving enough money, starting your own business, and growing an empire. That's a fantastic success story. Thank you for checking in. Davey, who's next?
Here's one from Zeke, who's writing to us from Bar Harbor, Maine today, Bill.
Hello, Zeke. I don't know if they have a Papa John's in Bar Harbor, but what's on your mind, sir?
He says, next time one of those younger generations starts complaining about how tough they got it, I'm going to tell him to order up a big slice of humble pizza pie from this guy. And then I'm going to tell him to go find a job.
Go get a job. There's an old song back in the 1990s, get a haircut and get a job. That was George Thorogood. Absolutely. Start your own business. There's nothing stopping you. Now back to Papa John's, Davey. I got a little bit of something to say about that. You're a big pizza fan, as I am. And Papa John's, I've tried it, bottom of the barrel pizza. Not as good as the slice used to get at the drive-in movie theater's snack bar. Now, maybe this guy's a franchisee and he makes it a little better, but I've been to Papa John's, and out of all the pizza I've ever had, that was down there at the bottom. Do you concur?
Well, Bill, I got to tell you, it doesn't crack my top 10.
Yeah. What's your number one? What's your
you
go-to pizza?
I mean, first off, you got to give kudos to Pizza Hut.
Okay.
I mean, Pizza Hut, stuffed crust pizza, triple-decker pizza, 7-layer pizza. Pizza Hut has, over the years, had some great innovations. And I also want to, give a shout-out to Costco's Pizza, which is also pretty good. It's
How
not
much
bad.
is that? Yeah, what do they charge?
I haven't been in a long time, Bill. It used to be a couple bucks a slice, but well worth it. And you get the whole pie for $10 or whatever. That's pretty good. But, and then there's Little Caesars. It's always ready.
It is always ready. Doesn't mean it's always good. I've been to Little Caesars a time or two. Not the right pizza. Now, Engineer Jamie and I, we see things eye to eye. The last honest pizza, Round Table Pizza. Plenty of franchises here in Southern California. That is some good pizza pie. And now it is time for us to shimmy on over to the part of the program we call the lighter side of news, and we take a closer look at a few captivating stories, guaranteed to make your day and bring a smile to your face. Kick things off today by booking an advanced reservation for a brand new hotel, which isn't even open yet. Because right now, it's still a working prison. Go figure. Yeah, correctional facility in a small town called Norco, California. On track to close down next year, and city officials already making plans to turn the site into an upscale luxury hotel. They say that before it was eventually turned into the prison, which it is now in the 1980s, that sprawling complex originally got its start as a successful high-end resort called the Norconian, which opened back in 1929. However, the pricey hotel went belly up a few months later due to the onset of the Great Depression. Well, if they open up a new hotel, does that mean, Davey, we're going to have another depression?
Well, I certainly hope not. If you have a depression staying at that hotel, it's going to go belly up again.
And they go on to say that over the years, the site's also been used as a naval hospital, a missile laboratory, and even a drug rehabilitation center. And that moving forward, they're hoping to clean the place up, polish off some of the remaining Art Deco features, and return the palace to its former glory. That's a great story about redemption. Here's a hotel that turned into a prison, and somehow it might just be able to morph right back into its old self and become a hotel again. I kind of like it. Still some hurdles to overcome, especially the asbestos thingy. It was built a long time ago, still some asbestos throughout the entire complex. And look, nobody wants to stay in the former prison's presidential suite while they suck up a lungful of asbestos. Dave, you can pay $500 a night for the presidential suite and get a lungful of asbestos?
I can only imagine what the presidential suite will be at that place, Bill.
Yeah, asbestos or not, it's pretty pricey. For now, still a prison. There's no turn-down service. Inmates don't receive a chocolate on their pillow. And at the end of the day, I hear the grub is kind of marginal. And no, producer Davey, they do not leave the light on for you. By the way, it turns out Norco, it's about an hour east of downtown L.A. Short drive from the News Roundup headquarters. And looking forward to seeing what they finally do with the current Gray Bar Motel. I'll drive over next year, Davey. I'll have a little look-see. And yeah, upon my return, I'll gladly report my findings. Now then, Davey Cakes, take a deep breath and tell us, where do we go from here?
Okay, Bill, this is a brouhaha that's brewing over a very popular hit song from the 1980s.
Okay, very good. We'll all take a deep breath now. Listen to a very sad song, which is playing out among the members of a popular rock band, as Davey just said, from the 1980s, way back when. The British musician Sting now being sued by his former bandmates and the police over an enormous amount of money in terms of missing royalties from their hit 1983 song, Every Breath You Take. You might have heard that one a time or 19 times. According to the lawsuit, the 73-year-old rocker has been ripping off his bandmates for years. The other two musicians claim that every year Sting is raking in about $740,000 in royalties just from that one song alone. Not the other songs, just that one song. And that because they didn't receive official songwriting credits at the time, they're not making a single dime from that classic tune. All goes to the singer. If you're going to be in a rock and roll band, Davey, always be the lead singer, not the drummer, not the guitar player. Hey, lawyers for the band members, they say they've repeatedly tried to come to an out-of-court settlement with their former leader, Mr. Sting, that they've finally reached a stalemate, and they have no other choice but to now turn to the courts in order to receive the millions of dollars in back pay, which they say they obviously deserve. By the way, the band broke up back in 1984, just a year after their monster song hit the airwaves. Now, look, I'm a fan of the band, and look, the Police, they had a great run and a number of big hits, but Every Breath You Take, it suffered from a severe, Davy, and devastating medical illness. You ever heard of this illness called overplayed-itis? You know that one?
Oh, I know it well, Bill.
From the time it became a hit in 1983 till as recently as 20 minutes ago, that song has been played over and over a zillion times. And at this point, there are no more breaths to take. There are no more moves to make. There are no more bonds to break, Davy. They say this stingy Sting fellow is banking $740,000 each and every year on the royalties from that one song. And that actually makes me, Davy, also want to write a marginal overplayed pop song as well. How hard can that be? You know, it's an odd call. Sting says he wrote the song, so he gets the dough, but they were a band, so the other policemen say they deserve a chunk of the pie as well. Let's see how that one all pans out. All right, one more for the road, Producer Davey, and you told me that today we have some matrimony news to share with the world. Davey, Are you telling us you put the ring on somebody's finger?
Not me, Bill. No way.
Somebody else?
Yeah, somebody else, got down on one knee, Bill.
Wow. All right. Finally today, wedding bells will soon be ringing, not for that guy, Producer Davey, but for a pair of extremely popular celebrities. And cynics are already betting on how long their marriage is likely to last. Pop star Taylor Swift, I think I've heard of her, and football hero Travis Kelce announcing that they're now officially engaged. No fooling. The pair of super famous 35-year-olds, they are delighting their millions of fans by sharing a photo. I think I saw that photo just last night. A photo showing Swift surrounded by flowers and Kelce bending down on knee while making his romantic proposal. The nuptials will be the first for both stars, and it's being greeted warmly by millions of people across the planet, including President Trump, who wishes them both a great deal of luck. In the meantime, there's still no word on where or when the sure-to-be next wedding of the century is set to take place, but one thing's for certain. We're all going to hear about it ad nauseum, especially from those aggravating Swifties. You know, Davey, I think it's going to be kind of like when Luke and Laura got hitched on General Hospital all those years ago, or when Prince Charles married Lady Di. This is going to be huge. You know, I like this Swiftie lady, and when she sings, sometimes I can't tell if that's her or Ella Fitzgerald, the jazz singing legend. That's how brilliant she is. It gets mildly confusing for me sometimes, but I'm a fan, and I'm thrilled that this basketball-playing fella has agreed to put a ring on her finger. This is a big deal.
Bill, wait a second.
Yes.
Travis Kelce does not play basketball, Bill.
What does he play?
Travis Kelce is a football player.
Oh, my gosh. Football, basketball, hockey ball, badminton ball. It's a ball game. He's an athlete. She's a pop star. Now, I've always liked the expression, what's the over-under? I have no idea what that phrase means, the over-under. But, Davey, break down what the over-under means and what it is for Travis Kelce and for Taylor Swift. What is the over-under for the pending nuptials, and what's it look like for us?
Okay, Bill. The over-under is a betting term where you set a number and people either bet over it or under it. And in this case, it'll be, how long do you think that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce will stay married from the time they say I do?
Okay, so I'll just ask you then, what's the over-under for the Kelce-Swift marriage?
Now, full disclosure, I am not a Vegas official, Bill.
Yeah.
But I would have to say the over-under is probably in the neighborhood of 5 years.
Yeah, he better stay married. You know what happens when Taylor Swift hits the road? She writes a pop song about you, and she'll embarrass the living daylights out of you. She'll make your life real complicated. He better keep that thing together. You say 5 years? I'm going to go with a lifetime marriage on this one. I feel pretty good about this. And that is a quick look at the lighter side of news. Your thoughts on ball players marrying rock stars, Stingy Sting, the songwriting machine, or Norco's much overlooked motel. Drop us a note, and we're at newsroundup@gmail.com. Just enough time, Davey, to squeeze in a couple of emails. Who do we go to first?
Okay, Bill, here's one from Carlos in San Jose, California.
Bring it on, Carlos.
He says, those California dudes are dreaming if they think they're ever going to turn their abandoned prison back into a luxury hotel. It's full of rats, asbestos, and filth, and it's more likely that people will pay to stay away.
Carlos, I absolutely agree with you. It's also bad karma turning a prison into a hotel. I think actually what's going to happen is in time, it's going to be torn down. I believe it's a city or a county-owned property. Norco sits, it's its own city, but sits in Riverside County. It'll be torn down. It's going to be sold. It's going to be developed. They'll put up condos, shopping malls, or maybe an Amazon annex where all those packages come through. They'll do something intelligent with it. They'll find a way to make a buck off of it, but I can't imagine turning it into a hotel. There are no shortages of hotels here in Southern California. You're spot on with that. Appreciate you checking in. Davey, who's up next?
Okay, Bill, here's one from Nick, who's writing to us from Burlington, Vermont.
What do you think of Nick?
Nick says, why should those bums get a single penny from that song if they didn't write it? That's like saying I should get royalties from the Beatles because I thought of the term yesterday. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it might be ridiculous. We have to get down to the nitty-gritty and find out who is actually responsible for writing that song. I think on the album it says written by Sting. So if it is his project, if he went home and he wrote the lyrics and he wrote the music, yeah, perhaps he should get all the royalties. But, be a stand-up guy. This is a guy with more millions than you and I will ever think about. The other guys in the band, what did they go on to do? The band broke up in 1984. Maybe they're not broke, but, you could do the right thing. Your bandmates, you kind of were a significant force in the music industry. Do the right thing and share the wealth, man. It's not that big a deal. Davey, time for one more, then we got to bust out.
Okay, Bill. I guess we close out today with Mrs. Wright.
Mrs. Wright is never wrong.
Virginia. Right, Mrs.
Very
Wright.
good.
She spells it with a W, but
okay.
Mrs. Wright from Leesburg, Virginia, and she says, I'm already sick and tired of hearing about those two conceited egomaniacs. If you want to get hitched, fine. But show a little dignity and keep it to yourselves instead of splashing that nonsense all over the interweb.
Look, I'm not a big fan of Travis Kelce. I'm not a big football nut. Not exactly a huge fan of Taylor Swift. I actually met her once many years ago. Nice young lady, and she's done a stellar job. She had a great career. But people nationwide, they love a big wedding. Now, I mentioned Luke and Laura on General Hospital back in the 1980s. That was the wedding of a lifetime, and that one was actually a fake wedding, a make-believe wedding on a goofy television soap opera. People loved that. It was massive. Prince Charles and Lady Di, when they got hitched, that was a global affair, and people are still talking about it to this day. This likewise will be something very similar. Perhaps not as grand, not as significant, but gee, a big football star and a big pop star tying the knot. This is going to be a huge deal. Everyone is going to love it. And one way or another, it's going to generate some big bucks for a lot of people. And time now for us to call it a wrap on the Hump Day Wednesday edition of the Big News Roundup. And before we go, as we do each and every day here on the program, we share with you a very notable quote. These inspiring words come to us today from George Lucas, who said, everybody has talent. It's just a matter of moving around till you've discovered what it is. Lucas, a legendary American filmmaker, best known for creating both the extremely popular Star Wars and Indiana Jones movie franchises. And long before there was a Star Wars and the other franchise, Davey, didn't he also do the 50s movie in the 1970s? What was that one?
He did. He was the creator of American Graffiti, Bill, back in 1973.
And then, if I understand correctly, the TV show Happy Days was kind of an afterthought from American Graffiti. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's probably sort of a knockoff from that.
Yeah, kind of a knockoff. That's George Lucas guy. He's a heck of a guy. Very brilliant film. Was he also Lucas McCain on The Rifleman, or is that a different Lucas?
That is a completely different Lucas, Bill.
That's
but
what I
George
thought, yeah.
Lucas, he's one of the most incredible, innovative filmmakers in American history.
And you would say right up there with Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, John Ford, and all the rest, right?
Absolutely, no question.
Yeah. All right, time for us now to roar on out of here. But before we call it a day, don't forget the News Roundup motto. Ask not what your podcast can do for you. No, ask what you can do for your podcast. And there are a ton of things you can do. For example, and it's pretty easy, you can subscribe to our program. I subscribed. I know producer Davey subscribed. That way you never miss a single episode. Follow us on your favorite social media platform and show us some love. Score us one of those highly sought after 5-star reviews. Hey, better yet, you can head over to your YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, that is, and just look for News Roundup with Bill Thomas, that's me, and give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and never miss another episode. By the way, the News Roundup also available on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, and anywhere else you find your podcasts. We're pretty much everywhere. For now, it looks like our time is officially up, so have an awesome day today. Let's all continue to watch out for one another. And Engineer Jamie, sitting on my left, please, let's dim these lights. Let's gently fade to black. We'll say goodbye for now, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow afternoon.